Hello, everyone, and welcome to a ranking that no one has ever done, and that is a ranking of the one-man black metal project, Panopticon. Now, in case you didn't know, for a very, very, very long time, I did not like black metal at all. But Panopticon and Enslaved and a few other bands managed to finally get me into the genre. We are talking about 8 albums here. There is one which I'm not big on at all, but everything else is just golden. Now, what struck me about Panopticon as opposed to other black metal bands is I loved the influence of traditional music, which I'm going to touch on a lot here. The influences from obviously black metal, Melodeath, and even some like prog parts. Austin Lunn is a really creative musician, and I am going to highlight that a lot throughout this list. Now, the only one I'm not that big on is Scars of Man Part 2. Now, this is mainly lost because there's no black metal whatsoever. It's all just like acoustic stuff, banjos, violins, symphonic instruments, blah 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 blah. And it's like an hour long. Every single track is like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 minutes long. And it just doesn't work at all. Like, I remember that I was saying that I wasn't enjoying this album that much, and then people were like, bro, just chuck it on when you're relaxing or something, and just as background music for when you want to put on music but you don't really want to actively pay attention to it. That didn't even work that well for me. So this is probably going to stay in last, I'm afraid. But yeah, after this, wow, Panopticon gets really good really quickly. Coming in number 7 is Social Disservices. This is only 4 tracks, but that's because all of them are long and explore lots of different songwriting dynamics. It's pretty much just Austin doing what he does best. And the final track, the 20-minute track, so good. Great mix of fast and slow, and this contains everything that Austin does very well. Next is one of the classics for Panopticon, which most people seem to have very high. Again, no one on YouTube has ranked Panopticon, so I'm not really sure what the general consensus is for the best stuff. But coming in at number 6 is actually going to be Kentucky. Now, Black Sword and Red Blood, amazing track. Amazing dynamics. I'm not that big on the giant spoken word section in the middle, but then it goes straight back into exactly what Austin always does. What weighs this down, though, is that there is 4 bluegrass-inspired tracks. And there's one track which is just, like, flat out something you would hear in, like, an American movie that's, like, set in a farm or something. I'll put the name of it there. That is not a good track at all. It's just so annoying, and it goes for, like, 6 minutes. I just want to shut it off every time. So, yeah, Kentucky is mainly this low because it's really hit or miss, but it's got that one track, Black Sword and Red Blood. That track is absolutely amazing. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Revisions of the Past. Now, the final 4 tracks of Revisions of the Past are actually Social Disservices, but I wanted to split it because, again, even though Social Disservices is only 4 tracks, they're all really long, so it ends up being like a 40-minute album. Anyways, number 5, Revisions of the Past. The opening track, Living in the Valley of the Shadow of Death. Wow. That song is absolutely brilliant. It starts with like this recording from like something from the 20s, probably like a political sample or something, because Austin likes to do that a lot. But yeah, then it goes straight into this really beautiful acoustic guitar section, acoustic clean guitar blah 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 section with like, violins and stuff underneath it. It just goes for like 3 minutes with lots of cool guitar parts and violin parts, but then straight into this big chunky black metal section, which is glorious. A spoken word bit, and then it goes into a spoken word bit, which actually works for me because it doesn't go that long. And the guitar solo at the end of this track, probably the best guitar solo of any Panopticon song. But yeah, the rest of the tracks don't grab me too much, except for To Make an Idol. That's a great track, and it's another quite quiet and atmospheric track, so that's pretty damn cool. But yeah, the rest of the tracks don't really grab me too much. Coming in at number 4 is what I think a lot of people think is the best Panopticon album. The one that most people say is the best, though, I have it number, 2? We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Anyways, coming in at number 4 is Autumn Eternal. Superior Lament, great track. Has everything that Austin does extremely well. It's got the mix of the black metal, bit of death metal chucked in there, and of course the bluegrass instrumentation. This is another one, much like Kentucky, where I think that side of Panopticon takes up too much of the runtime. It's quite a long album too. It's like 59 minutes or something like that, 58 minutes. So yeah, there is definitely a fair bit of filler, but when this album is good, it's really good. The previously mentioned Superior Lament is a really good track, and Wind's Farewell, great closer, because it's got like that wrapping up kind of feel to the album. Enough said. Now, coming in at number 3 is part 1 of Scars of Man of the Once Nameless Wilderness, or something insanely long and annoying like that. All I'll say about this album, these 4 tracks, absolutely amazing. Number 2, though, is the album that really broke Panopticon onto the scene. This took Panopticon from a band that people thought was pretty good to a band that people thought was really good, and definitely something to look out for in the coming decade. My number 2 is Roads to the North. Echoes of Disharmonic Evensong is amazing. It flat out sounds like a Melodeath song, like something that some of the Swedish bands would have written, and it's got this really large atmospheric section in the middle, which is something I said about a lot of tracks already. And the last minute or so of that track, with the very guitar-centric melodies, and the riff that Austin chooses to end it on, is amazing. The Sigh of Summer, excellent song, which once again starts with clean guitars, and then straight into what Austin does best. Yeah, overall, Roads to the North is such a great album. Oh, and the 12-minute closing track, Trace the Grain. Wow, Chase the Grain. Forget about it. That song slays. But coming in at number 1, one of the very first black metal albums that I listened to and went, wow, that was brilliant. The new one, And Again Into the Light. As soon as I tossed this album on, and the banjo-driven title track comes on, I knew I was in for something special, and something that would finally change my mind about black metal. That opening track has just got so many gorgeous violin melodies in it. The vocal melodies are so good. And even the banjo fits in there quite well. Often when Austin uses the banjo, I'm like, bro, stop it. This doesn't sound good. That track, though, absolutely works. Straight into the 12-minute Dead Loons, which does hang on the exact same melody for like 6.5 minutes. But yeah, the violins carry that track. And that's something that's kind of common for this album. The violins like take the forefront. But I love hearing violins in metal, so it doesn't bother me too much. Straight into Rope Burn Exit, which is a very consistent song in terms of sound and tempo. But yeah, it clearly focuses on very big melodies, and ending with the violins, because every other instrument just fades out and then it's the violins. Great. Straight into Snowless Winter, which is another very long track. It's about 12 or 13 minutes. I don't really care for that track that much. But guys, next is what I think is the best Panopticon track ever. Moth Eaten Soul. That song is just... Most Panopticon tracks are like kind of scary and moody, but like also have this sense of beauty. Moth Eaten Soul, Austin was like, screw that. I'm going dark and heavy, punishing and depressing. There is pretty much no beautiful melodies at all to be found in this song. It's just 7.5 minutes of pounding your face in, and that slow bit in the middle is so good. And this song is probably Austin's best drum performance ever. And the last two tracks feel like a very fitting closer and a hopeful end to this like kind of dark and moody album, but it's also very uplifting at the same time. And Embers at Dawn feels like a reflective track because this album was written during the pandemic. So, Austin was like feeling a lot of regret and sadness and channeled into this album so well. And the last song, No Hope, another very long song. It's about 12 and a half minutes long. At about 7 minutes in, that's got to be one of my favorite Panopticon moments ever. It's just really quiet with this giant build-up. And you're kind of like, come on, Austin, give it to me. And then it ends with like this very mellow death-inspired part, much like I said about, what's that song from Chase the Grain called? Echoes of Disharmonic Evensong. It kind of reminds me of that, just this very mellow death-inspired part. Then the violins fade in, and everything else fades out, and it's just the violins for like the final 2 minutes. Which kind of bookends the album, because it starts and ends with gorgeous violin parts. Yeah. And Again Into the Light is, without question, one of my absolute favorite black metal albums of all time. And alongside Frost by Enslaved, is pretty much responsible for getting me into black metal. So Panopticon and Enslaved, those will always be really important bands to me. And that's it, guys. I finally ranked a black metal band. Enslaved is going to be the next black metal band I rank. I'm also going to do a Cannibal Corpse ranking soon. I kind of want to redo my Morbid Angel ranking. And I have many more videos to come. Plenty of covers as normal, and just a whole bunch of other very out of left field content, because that is what I do best. Share your Panopticon ranking below if you're a fan, and I will see you in the next one.